What's going on, gardeners? On today's 2-minute garden tip, I'm going to share with you the best way to plant flowers around your garden, as well as a mistake that many gardeners make that may make planting flowers more trouble than it's worth. Many of us with gardens plant flowers around the gardens for two distinct reasons. Number one, they're absolutely beautiful, and number two, they bring in a ton of pollinators. Sunflowers are my personal favorite to plant around the garden because they bring in an enormous number of bees. I mean, just look at the bee activity flying around the sunflowers. If there is a sunflower head in full bloom, there is probably a bee on it somewhere, and you may even get the occasional dragonfly or two. As a result, many gardeners interplant flowers with their garden vegetables in order to bring more pollinators and beneficials into their garden. But this can be a catastrophic mistake. The first reason why this may be a mistake is the resource cost. Look at this sunflower variety right here. This Peridovic sunflower is towering over me. So think of all the nutrients it requires to maintain this 8-foot height. If you were to interplant these types of flowers with your vegetables, it would clean out the nutrients from the soil and probably stunt the growth of your vegetables because these plants have a much higher nutrient demand and their extensive root systems may outcompete those other plants. The second problem is the attraction of bad insects. While these sunflowers love to attract pollinators during the day, they also love attracting bad bugs at sunset and later during the evening. These very same sunflowers that are attracting bees like crazy love attracting leaf-footed bugs, Japanese beetles, and stink bugs, and they may attract a whole bunch of other really bad pests that are not part of my climate but may be part of yours. For that reason, I very rarely interplant flowers within my garden itself. I plant flowers around the perimeter of my garden, and this has two different effects. Number one, it brings pollinators into the area, so it will still attract pollinators to my garden. While they may spend most of their time around these flowers itself, they will make their way into the garden and pollinate those flowers as well, so I still get all of the beneficial results. However, the second advantage to this method is I'm not drawing the beetles and leaf-footed bugs and stink bugs and other pests that may be attracted to the flowers into my garden. I'm actually using these as distraction crops. I'm drawing the bad pests out of my garden. Those bugs love my tomato plants over there, but they will generally stay away from my tomato plants as long as the sunflowers are in peak bloom because they would rather have the sunflowers than the tomatoes. So I get a double-pronged effect. I bring the pollinators into the yard and I move the bad bugs out of my garden to the outskirts. And in order for this to be most effective, you want to have multiple plantings of your favorite flowers. So these are the original plantings of sunflowers from the spring. These are a secondary planting that will bloom behind them, and then I'm soon going to direct sow some more sunflower seeds in this gap right here, so I have a third planting that will be behind the second planting. So remember, while flowers may be good at bringing in beneficial insects, some flowers may also attract some negative insects as well. So you have to consider that before you interplant them into your garden. Also, if you find flowers that don't attract any negative insects and only bring in good and you think you can interplant them with your vegetables, make sure that they are the type of flowers that will not outcompete the actual vegetables themselves, because they could starve your plants for food and you may have a very poor harvest. And that's today's 2-minute garden tip. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.